Okay, we're joined here by Tim and Alistair, and thanks very much for coming to the FIVA stand here at the Goodwood Revival. So we've been talking about car preservation, Alistair, and obviously one of the challenges would be as cars get older and older, availability of parts becomes an increasing challenge, and I think that's where you potentially step in.
Absolutely. So I started a laser scanning reverse engineering company 20 years ago, and we mainly focused on modern car design and development, some aerospace, some military work, but my sort of hobby of racing old cars took over, and we sort of merged the two together. So now we specialise in scanning parts of old racing cars or historic cars, even Edwardian cars. We reverse engineer them, draw the parts up in CAD, and then use a whole crop of outsourced companies to manufacture the parts. So we make anything from gaskets to complete gearboxes, really. And any car that I race, which I'm lucky to race, I've raced here at Goodwood a few times, and we always scan the bodywork of the car before we race it, just in case we have a problem with the barriers or other people driving it. So we have a sort of digital 3D scan of the bodywork, which is almost an insurance policy for the shape of the car, because as you well know, the cars were hand built, the bodywork is so beautiful, and each car is slightly different, so we capture to a fraction of a millimetre the shape of the car. So that's what we do for a job. It's good fun.
So you mentioned building entire gearboxes. I mean, so you take the gearbox completely apart, obviously to all its different component parts, scan each part individually, and then put the whole thing back together again?
Absolutely. So that covers a huge variety of engineering skills. So we cast magnesium casing, so we do pattern making and foundry work. We do gear cutting and general CNC machining to make the shafts and make the dogs and the selectors, and even small oil pumps for some of the sort of Grand Prix car type gearboxes. So yeah, they're very complicated assemblies, and every part is drawn and becomes a complete CAD assembly, and that's how we use the CAD models to manufacture the different parts by many different companies.
Yeah, you have an army of subcontractors, as you said, and as a matter of interest, are many of them in the UK, or do you go internationally?
We try and use UK-based companies, mainly because it's a lot easier to have a conversation with them, and we like to keep things made in England as much as we can. And majority of English companies understand what we're trying to do and appreciate the sort of heritage, and are really keen to be involved in historic motor racing. So they're almost as proud as I am to see the parts going round the racetrack. So that's why we focus on that.
That's fascinating, Alistair. Thanks very much. Tim, you're a little bit far away from me to reach across there on that RMake. So tell me, Tim, where do you fit into this whole world of preservation and historic motorsport?
So we do it the other way to Alistair. So it's very much the old school of doing it hands-on. And sort of using cardboard assisted engineering, so taking templates for bits of cardboard of body panels and so on and so forth and making them up. So Alistair and I both come from the world of Fraser-Nash's, so that's racing everything from the chain drive cars through to 328s, and getting hands on in the workshop as they've done for many years, and keeping that tradition going of oily garage floors and spanners, whereas Alistair comes along with his laptop, sets it up in the workshop, and only yesterday we were working on the design for some engine mounts, and I'm sat there with sort of angle grinders and tape measures, and Alistair's there with a 3D model and rotating it all around, and somewhere in between it all comes together, and hopefully we end up with a part that fits. And the fascinating thing is that most of the time it works. Something that Alistair sends down bolts straight onto all the work that we've done, and I think that's a good sign of craftsmanship from all angles, really.
Yeah, so interesting collaboration. So Alistair can create the things, and then you're the one that eventually potentially bolts it all together then?
Absolutely, and it's very much different philosophies, and it's quite interesting, because Alistair will be saying, well, I can make you a template up out of MDF, and I'm thinking, well, we'll be there with sort of a file or something along those lines. Alistair will give us a 3D print, and we'll just be sitting there trying to do it the old school way. So it's a lot of fun, but we quite often end up with a different view as to which way we're going to make a part or prototype a part, and then sometimes we give in, and then sometimes it's quicker for us to do it the old way. So it's good fun.
So here at the Revival, have you obviously going around looking at the cars? Do you occasionally see bits and pieces that you've made, or maybe even large components of cars that you've made in the paddock here?
Yeah, it's quite surprising actually. You do a job and you've you make the part and deliver the part and you forget about it. But walking around the paddocks today and watching the cars going out racing, it's like, oh, I looked at that wishbone. We machined that from solid, and we looked at the front end of that car and we made a jig to English wheel the body panels too. So it's quite satisfying to see my work being raced. It's great fun, really.
Last race you said, oh, I made the brake discs for that.
Yeah, well, certainly fulfilling an essential part of the whole preservation side of things, because I assume you don't have many competitors, not many other people that owners of these old cars can actually turn to that can make these parts with such precision.
Well, I tend to do the projects that people don't want to do. So if it's the unusual or the tricky or the very, very low volume parts, they're the ones that I always say yes to, because one, I enjoy the challenge, and two, probably nobody else is prepared to do it. So no, it gives me great satisfaction, really.
Okay, well, Alistair and Tim, Fraser Nash experts, thank you both very much indeed for coming along and sharing your information with FIVA. Thank you.